What's going on, y'all? We're back on. This is a unique sports mastery podcast where we're doing a video and audio of this conversation. I have a wonderful guest that's coming on. He's a relative. His name is Damon Fontleroy. He just recently published his first book, Where to Start Vegan. So I like to start this conversation there before we get into the heart of the matter. The ultimate theme of this episode is going to be biodiversity in sports performance. You remember about 10 years ago, I was eating vegan, and I was kind of like an alien, you know, as far as what I was doing.
I had never heard of it.
Eating raw, I was cleansing, been 21 days without food, on the herbs, herbal cleanse, juice fast, living off the juicer, going to all the local vegan restaurants in Portland. And then one day I decided to go back about 24 months later to eat meat. So here we are, 8-9 years later. Now you're vegan, you're convincing me to go back. I'm juicing more. I'm on the beet juice, the ginger, putting my apples in there, putting a little bit of cayenne, throwing a pear in there. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your book, Where to Start Vegan. Why did you decide to write that book and title it that?
First of all, my name is Damon Fontleroy, and the book we're talking about is called Where to Start Vegan, and it's by my sister and I, Daisha Fontleroy, and I'm Damon Fontleroy. And what kind of propelled us into going into the vegan lifestyle is we've lived in a family to where we've had, I believe we calculated 11 deaths. Our last past 11 deaths, we had 9 deaths that came from food-related deaths. Things that could have been cured: diabetes, high blood pressure. My father passed from a heart attack. So, in order for us to, or not in order for us, but what we didn't want to do is continue in the footsteps of having high blood pressure, possibly having a stroke, and that type of thing. So we look for ways and solutions to be able to just walk another path so we don't have to go into that predictable path of heart attacks and that type of thing.
So that's what, when you look at some of the ancestors and family members, whether it was close or distant relatives, that was the impetus for you to make a change. Absolutely. In terms of what you put into your body.
Absolutely.
So you get to eating vegan. What were some of your initial benefits?
More energy. More energy, clarity of thought, and just feeling better, not feeling sluggish. Where I can eat and continue on with my day, versus eating a good meal, steak, potatoes, and being tired.
Right. Right.
Because what happens when you literally eat steak or potatoes, that's such a heavy meal on the digestive system. So you might as well went and did a workout because they're equivalent. Because your body needs so much energy to digest all that food. So even if you didn't go work out, you're gonna feel like you worked out. You're gonna be that tired because your body used all the energy inside of it to digest just that one meal.
So that's why it makes us feel like we want to go to sleep.
It makes you feel, because your body wants to shut down for you so it can go to work because there's so much food. So it shuts down everything in your body. All the blood in your body goes straight there to start doing the digestive process.
So now this is all interesting coming from you. One, you're a family member, and two, I've read your work. I appreciate your work. I subscribe and bought the work, as far as supporting your business. What led to you physically sit down and say, I'm gonna write this book?
It's just based on the culture. I think I see people like myself. We all come from the culture of African Americans. Were a lot of 70% of African American society were sick from all those things we were mentioning. So I think what we were trying to do is to help guide people away from the sickness. I think that's the deeper aspect of it, because deep down in our culture is slave culture.
Okay, explain that to me.
We want to pretend that we're this or we're that, but the only thing that we embrace with no questions is the slave dynamic. So every morning we get up, we wake up, we go and search for food that's equivalent to the slave diet, the greens, the pork, all that. We only tune in to that type of diet, and that diet is the one that's killing us, you know? So we gotta shake that slavery way of thinking, man. It's a deep,
understanding, like, I guess you could say that dynamic or past trauma going into the future, you wanted to educate, you know, people, black people, and the masses.
The masses, but specifically because I wanted to stake claim on something that didn't have a black face on it, which was a vegan diet.
Yes.
And then, I mean, because a lot of black people that's into it now, they're only trying it because, like my Facebook friends, they only giving it a try because they see I gave it a try. That's a black face on something that was specifically for other cultures, they thought.
So you gave other people, you influenced other people with your work and your consistency.
And then what really shaped it was black people don't have a diet in America. Our diet is the slave diet. That's the only one we tune into. We only want foods from slavery days. That's all we eat.
So you're talking about like the fried chicken?
Pig feet, fried food, the leftover pigs. We still eat the garbage, the leftover food. And we love it to the death of us, really.
So basically what you're trying, the intention here is to live longer.
Not live longer, live a better quality of life.
We want to live a better quality of life.
Better quality of life. Who wants to live on pills their whole life? That's not a good quality of living. You're suffering.
That's right.
You know, so I wanted to give us a different diet to move us away from the slavery diet so we won't have to accept sickness. We've accepted it. So we wanted to pull people away from the sickness to give you a better way, you know, because your diet changes your thinking.
Yeah, so it sounds like, you know, what I hear is people have embraced a certain habit, and it's hard to let that habit go. Just like, or almost like a drug addict.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of fight or a lot of flack from others when it comes to change. And I'm sure that started with certain family members because it's hard to undo something or hard to change your train of thought.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been taught to say, diabetes is in our family, it just runs in our family. No, those recipes that's causing diabetes is still in your family.
So it's not hereditary.
It's not hereditary, it's diet. Yeah, 100% diet. Some people are predisposed to certain things, but everything can be manipulated with your diet. Creating whole new cells with the foods you eat. You are what you eat, so that, you know, that changes your cell structure.
So when you now this is leading into our conversation of biodiversity in sports performance, but more specifically human performance. And explain or define biodiversity for us.
Biodiversity is just locking in and acknowledging, a better word is acknowledging diversity in human beings, that a European descendant is different from a African American descendant, and Asians are more similar to the European, and then so on and so forth. But to acknowledge biodiversity is to say, okay, that person is different, so maybe they should have certain things that they should eat, or maybe they should eat this or that. It's just acknowledging the differences in people, because in society we haven't acknowledged anybody's diversity in America. It's a one pill fits all society. This pill is good. Anybody that's diabetic, you got 2 million people taking the exact same pill. That's no diversity. You got all different body structures, genome types, different blood types. Everything's different, but you're feeding them all the same thing. That's why some people are sick and others aren't. You know, it's just acknowledging the differences.
When I listen to you, it reminds me of the food pyramid when we were younger. You got the base of the pyramid. They say we should have X amount of fruits and vegetables. Then they put the grain in there, and then they have the meat in there, and then they put the sweets at the top. And it's like everybody should adhere. You got billions, millions to billions of people living off of this one pyramid. So basically, you're saying, how could this be right for everybody?
Yeah, it's not, because everybody's different. You have to acknowledge it. Take, for instance, I wanted to bring this to bring clarity on biodiversity. It's the reason I brung this. And it's an article. I want you guys to look this up, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. So I got a copy of it. But It's a website called the New England Journal of Medicine. And everybody wants to look this article up. And when you go to the website, you go to the website, New England Journal of Medicine. And what you want to type in is vitamin D binding protein and vitamin D status of Black Americans and white Americans. Okay? So when you look that up, they'll explain to you biodiversity, and I'll give you the gist of it right now. So how they explain biodiversity is this. They took 2,000...
now, who is that? Is this a school or this one
this is
particular
a doctor? Yeah.
What's his name?
In New England. What was his name? This article came out in 2014 and is still relevant. PhD. Yeah, they got them. Well, actually, it's a whole school of them.
Like
it's
a
a whole
consortium.
bunch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
a
like
number of doctors.
10 of them, but they're all on there.
Gotcha.
So they all got together and done this research, and what the research shows is with like vitamin D, vitamin C, they did a study on vitamin D3.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they came up with when Asians and European Americans go to the hospital, they can scan their body and see the vitamin D3 in their blood cells. They can see it floating around.
Mm-hmm.
But what they came up with when Black people or African Americans went to the hospital and got scanned, they couldn't see the vitamin D3 in their blood floating around. So what they do, they just automatically assume that Black people are vitamin D deficient.
Okay.
So what happens is Black people are getting misdiagnosed because of this, because their technology isn't acknowledging biodiversity. And the biodiversity is this. Black people have a different relationship with the sun. So when the sun interacts with African Americans' cholesterol, it becomes food. It goes through the blood, and once it goes through the blood, it takes on other processes where it seeps down into your bones. So Black people's bones are dense. They're more denser than other cultures. But they weren't taken into context that this is how Black biology happens and how it's structured, to where theirs goes to their bones, but everybody else's, or European and Asians, stays in their blood.
Okay.
So, I mean,
okay.
Because why would you diagnose people saying they're deficient of something when you don't have the proper technology to be able to acknowledge something inside their body?
Now, as a thought, do you think some people know, or some institutions or organizations of higher medicine know?
The institutions of higher medicine, and they got to know, else they wouldn't have released this report. This is the higher medical people acknowledging it. This was in 2014.
So now let me ask you this. If I'm a Black athlete, and I'm listening to you right now, and it sounds like you have to take melanin into consideration, and
Absolutely.
And the
EU melanin. You have to understand
the molecule.
You have to understand that Blacks, African Americans, and European Americans both have melanin, but our melanin is called EU melanin, spelled EU melanin. Theirs is pheomelanin, but theirs is a paler melanin. Ours is a dark brownish melanin. So you have to take those in context.
Okay.
Understanding the genetics.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to understand that.
So if I'm an African American athlete, or African athlete, or I'm a melanated person, and I have a higher content of melanin than like my lighter skinned counterparts, what kind of nutrition or foods would you suggest me eat, or superfoods, to recover or to enhance my sports performance? So I don't think I need protein and eating 2 or 3 steaks a night to gain weight, or after a game.
First, I would educate them before I would educate them first before I offer them some type of diet regimen. But
And I know we don't like to use diet, that word.
Or nutrition, before I offer them some nutrition. But yes, I would say, in order for like an African American, I would tell them to eat things that have melanin in them, like dark cherries, blackberries, and blueberries. They have what's called plant melanin. you know, so that'll help strengthen your melanin. Melanin is just a fancy word for immune system. It really just means immune system.
Okay, what do you mean?
So when you're eating foods that have melanin in them already, it only serves to strengthen your immune system. You know, so it just replaces the stuff that you're burning. Because the deeper aspect of it, you have things attacking your melanin every day.
Okay.
And that's the nitrogen aspect. You know, we live in a world full of nitrogen. So, and that leads us to the other point that I wanted to make is this. This is
It looks like a molecular structure of something.
It is. It's the structure of amino acids, misnamed amino acids. But this is also the reason black people eat so much meat, because this is what they've been trained. When you look at this structure in biology or science class, whatever, they tell you this is called an amino acid, and that's
which is the building blocks of protein. As we're taught.
And also one of the biggest lies in population, because this whole structure is not called amino acid. This little piece right here is called the amino acid. It's only 10% of the whole structure.
So that's the nitrogen in 2 parts hydrogen.
This is the nitrogen, absolutely. This is the nitrogen aspect of the structure, but the whole structure is called the carboxylic acid. Why don't they let us know it's called the carboxylic acid? Because then they're telling you what your diet should be. And they're also telling you as an African American who you are. They're saying if this is a carboxylic acid, then they're telling you that this is carbon. So once you hear carbon, well, you know African Americans are made of carbon, selenium, and copper. So if they tell you that this is a carboxylic acid, they're telling you this is your structure. But instead they're telling you that it's an amino acid when only the little part is amino acid, which is nitrogen. And in an African American body, all this structure is trying to do is eliminate this. It's trying to get rid of this because this is nitrogen. And African Americans are allergic to nitrogen. So the liver in African Americans is always trying to strip this out of your body. It's trying to eliminate nitrogen out of our bodies.
So in the typical American diet, what foods are high in nitrogen?
Everything. The American diet is 99% nitrogen. That's why they pump it. And that's why they make it a standard, because it's specific for European Americans and Asians. They can eat nitrogen because their DNA structure consists of nitrogen, sulfur, ammonia.
Okay. So explain that, like their DNA structure versus, I guess you could say, a darker or more melanated.
So compared to us, they can. Okay, let's break it down like in a sport aspect.
Okay.
Now you got 2 superhumans right here. One's European and one's African American. So I'll give them both 2 different.
It needs to be professional athletes.
Professional. It could be our kids. It could be whoever. No, let's say they're not superhuman. We can make them superhuman with proper training. Like if they train with you, and then I put them on a correct diet, biodiverse diet. Neither one of them get the same thing. Yeah. Europeans will be a nitrogen-based diet. I can give them nitrogen all day. African American, the nitrogen is his kryptonite. So if the African American is Superman, he's Clark Kent as soon as he gets nitrogen in his body, because it cuts off the oxygen in his body. So that's why African Americans are getting so sick in America, because they're being fed nitrogen, which they're allergic to. So they're blowing up, they're getting sick. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're sick. But if I want to increase his superpower, turn him into Superman, I feed him the blackberries, the blueberries. So I'm strengthening his melanin instead of taking it from him.
Okay.
So all their products in America are taking away his superpower. Mm-hmm. Some are working through it, pushing hard, they're working out, burning, trying to get rid of the, like we said, the nitrogen. And that's cool. But then I take the European athlete and I can do the same thing. Their superpower is the nitrogen. Because now you're reloading what they're already biologically made.
What would be proper foods for the European or the Caucasian athlete that are high in nitrogen versus
their steaks? I mean, okay. Steak is high.
So that would be a grass-fed steak if I'm going to do the best.
If you want to give them the best, I prefer, like I would put a European American on mainly no land animals. When I'm trying to produce a European kid into being superior, I will put them on no land animals. I will give them wild bass, wild salmon, or hormone-free turkey.
Why is that? Why hormone-free turkey?
Because I don't want to put any toxins in it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're always trying to get rid of nitrogen as African Americans. But then when I'm dealing with the European, I want to feed him to where I'm not giving him toxins either. So I don't want to just say, here, eat that beef or eat this and send him on his way. No, we're trying to build tissue faster. Mm-hmm. We're trying to replace and regenerate cells. All cells need water, air, minerals, and a little bit of sun. So we'll base that structure, and that's mainly for Black Americans to improve their cells. But also, you give them water. Make sure I give them breathing techniques to stuff you can do in the morning, and I'll just give them stuff to just to build them and regenerate cells.
Now we talked about breathing before, and a part of that, and I don't want to make it feel like I'm digressing, but you have a certain way that you start every day.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that and what that does for you, and why we should do this particular exercise upon waking.
Yeah. What it is 100 breaths before you get out of bed. Just 100 deep breaths, just to ensure that your brain can function sharp. You want to give it all the oxygen it will need for the day. You don't want to hop out of bed. Sometimes you hop out of bed too fast, you get lightheaded.
That's right.
Well, you didn't have enough oxygen. You didn't think about whether you had enough oxygen.
I've done it before.
Yeah, so before you get out of bed, just make sure you got plenty of oxygen. So just give that to yourself. Give that to you. Make sure your body got enough oxygen in your head, so it makes it easier for you to focus or be more sharp and in tune, so you can pay attention, more alert. That's the word I'm looking for.